Greetings to all. I'm Riya from Department of Political Science, MA Final from Vasanta College for Women, Rajghat. The topic of my presentation is India and its South Asian neighbors. India shares its boundary, be it land or maritime, with 8 countries. Alphabetically, it's Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Although Afghanistan have a very less boundary connected with India, but still it is considered to be an integral part of South Asia or Indian subcontinent. India have a very close relationship in a lot of dimensions with all of its neighboring nations. Post independence, the challenge before India was to manage its own unity, manage its own internal domestic politics, as well as to look after the troubled neighbors. One of the scholars, S.D. Muni, said that India approach towards its own neighbor depends on its own domestic politics. Atal Bihari Vajpayee said that friends can be changed, but neighbors cannot be changed, therefore implying the importance of neighbors from the very beginning in Indian foreign policy. Another scholar, V.P. Dutt, said that for any foreign policy, the neighbors should be prioritized at top. But all of these imperatives are very different to what actually happens with India's relationship with South Asian nations. Because South Asian region is still considered to be one of the most dangerous as well as the least integrated regions in this world. This is so because even though India claims that the South Asian country or the South Asian region, to be precise, it's the sphere of influence for India, but it's not in reality a hegemon. Just like USA in its own region, Russia in its own region, India is not a hegemon because it is not accepted as hegemon by the other nations in South Asian region. India's economic liberalization made the economic growth of India enough for it to consider itself a hegemon, but in reality, none of its neighbor consider it to be the one, except from Bhutan and in very little amount Maldives. Even though when we see the growth of Maldives from past few years, it's still evident that even Maldives is not the one which accept India's hegemony in the region. So, India's objective towards its neighbor is that India wants a peaceful, a stable, and a prosperous neighborhood, a prosperous South Asian region. Then it respects the sovereign equality and mutual respect. These are the claims of India's objective in with respect to its neighbors. Now, when we'll see the dynamism in India's policy from the beginning, when we'll see the Nehru era, Nehru was the one who stressed that there is no need of any other country to be involved in Indian subcontinent or to be involved in South Asia because this is India's sphere of influence. Even though Nehru himself was the one who approached Soviet or remaining leaders as well were the one who either used to approach USA or predominantly used to approach USSR. Post 1990, after the LPG in India, we see that India started taking the help or the started linking itself with greater powers, and it started influencing the politics, the domestic politics of neighboring countries. The best example is Nepal and Sri Lanka. Now, policy framework of India with respect to the South Asian region. India adopts neighborhood first policy wherein it prioritizes the neighbors over any other power of this world. Second is Gujarat doctrine, wherein I.K. Gujarat in 1990s came up with this policy or doctrine with which also prioritized that we will not seek reciprocity but should extend goodwill with cooperation unconditionally to smaller South Asian countries. The Act East policy, which was launched in 2014, is also an upgradation to earlier Look East policy. It focused on strengthening strategic, economic, and cultural ties with South Asian region. Now, the Sagar Doctrine, which is the security and growth for all in the region, this was also announced in 2015, and its vision was for the Indian Ocean region, prioritizing again the South Asian region. Now, we'll very quickly see the relationship of India with its neighbor, with its South Asian countries. So first of all is India and Pakistan. The core issue of and Pakistan is terrorism, and from the POV of Pakistan, it's Kashmir. The concern is the continuous ceasefire violation, and post 2019, the relationship diminished, and they don't have a very good trade relationship or diplomatic relationship. And by April 2025, after the terror attack, there is possibility of war hanging over both the nations. So it's very evident the kind of relationship we share with Pakistan, the terrorist nation state. Second is Bangladesh. Our relationship with Bangladesh is also in turmoil from 2024 because the stable regime, which was enough favorable to India, the Hasina regime, is also was also collapsed, and because of the collapse of her regime, India still faces the issue of anti-India approach of Bangladesh government, the border migration issue, then Hindu murders, Hindu killings, and Bangladesh nexus with Pakistan is still the burning issue between India and Bangladesh. India Nepal also have border issues. Nepal is sandwiched between two great powers, India and China, and it keeps on swinging between India and China. The problem with Nepal that we have is, even though the relationship with India and Nepal is considered to be a beti roti ka rishta, which means that we have strong cultural and economic ties with Nepal, but even after that, we face the problem of disputes like Kalapani dispute or the Chinese influence or the allegations that India is the one which influences the domestic politics of Nepal. Though India is much more focused on the infrastructure and development projects in Nepal. With respect to Bhutan, Bhutan is the country where the new government in 2014 in India was the where the president's where prime minister's first visit was to Bhutan, and Bhutan is usually the most prioritized and the most peaceful relation that we have with any country in South Asian region is only Bhutan, and we have deep trust and cooperation. It is also a country which is wholly sandwiched between Indian mainland. So we have deep trust, we have hydropower development, we have strategic buffer with China. It also works like a strategic buffer with China, and we have a very good bilateral relationship with Bhutan. In case of Sri Lanka, we again have historical and cultural ties with Sri Lanka. The problem or issue in our relationship is that of Tamil question. The recent one is the Chinese presence very predominantly in Sri Lankan territory, which hurts the interest of India. The focus of India and Sri Lanka relationship is infrastructure and maritime cooperation. Also, the fishermen issue is one of the contentious issue between Sri Lanka and India. With respect to India and Afghanistan, the Taliban regime is yet not accepted by India legally, even though we have been meeting with Taliban from 2024. We have with our humanitarian assistance dedicated towards Taliban in Afghanistan for the people of Afghanistan. We have development assistance. We focus on the education of people in Afghanistan, and the challenges is that we are still not the one who accepted the regime of Taliban, even though the humanitarian assistance is continued. With respect to Maldives, Maldives is important for India with respect to maritime and security cooperation. The Sagar project, which was initiated for the dominance of Indian Ocean region, the Maldives is again one of the prominent nation. The constraint in relationship came when the recent government in Maldives came to power by criticizing India over China, prioritizing China over India, and he won the elections by popular vote, tells clearly that even the people of Maldives have some sort of resentment towards India. Now, concluding the presentation, the India South Asian policy is very dynamic and multi-dimensional. It's not a very coherent or unified form of approach that we adopted. It all time keeps on changing because it's the most least integrated region of the world. Even the one project that we had, Shark, even that is not the one which is approached by any of the country, or it does not seem as if any of the country is enough interested to combine the countries together or to form a strong SARC or any other regional organization. Even India most of the times prioritizes BIMSTEC over any SARC or any other collaboration with South Asian region. So our ties vary from cooperative to complex, from complex to cooperative. The focus of India should be on stability, should be on connectivity, and they should counter the external influence in South Asian region. The references that I used for this presentation is Devin Malone's book from 2011, Does the Elephant Dance, with his edited, republished version in 2016. Along with that, I've substantiated the presentation with current developments in news in world and in South Asian region. Thank you.